Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. I hope everyone has rested and recovered after an exciting week's racing up in Sheffield. And on this week's episode of the podcast, we are going to be reviewing all of the British Swimming Championships 2023.
Yeah, I mean, what a British Championships we've just had. So many lifetime bests, some extremely close and dramatic finishes, and a few tough consideration and qualification times hit as well. It really was a meet that had everything.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into this podcast, I do want to give a few massive shout outs and thank yous for everyone who helped us out at British Swimming Championships. So first of all, if you haven't seen the announcement, Propulsion Swimming is partnering with Speedo over the next 12 months to cover meets just like this. They are helping us get there, helping us get amazing access. There's, I believe, 4 more meets that we're going to be attending as part of our partnership later on this year, and we really can't wait for that. To the British Swimming media team, who essentially gave us poolside access and access to the athletes and help us out in any single way up in Sheffield. You guys do a fantastic job, and thank you so much for your support while we were there. And then to Jay Manners, I know he's listening, a massive thank you for helping us getting the results up on social medias. It's something we are really keen to do as Propulsion Swimming, kind of invest in sharing everyone's swims across social media, and we couldn't be more pleased that he's part of our team and helping us out. It was a massive help because me and Dan were running around like little lunatics on poolside.
Do you know what? Actually, I've got a little bit of a hip injury from the running around I've done. No jokes. That's how unfit I am. But yes, I'm just going to echo what you said. Thank you very much to Speedo, British Swimming, and of course to Jay for those amazing results. We can't thank you all enough for the amazing help. Thank you very much.
Yep, and to all of the swimmers, coaches, officials, volunteers who made this week possible, it really was an incredible meet and lots to get through on this week's episode. As kind of we try and give you our quick thoughts. We aren't going to review every single race because no one wants to listen to me and Dan for 2 hours, but we are going to go through British Champs and, more importantly, the British Swimming World Championships team selection, which has come out about 8 hours before we're recording this podcast. Where this is going to be going up the day after the announcement, so we'll go through everything in that sense as well. So lots to get into, Dan. So first of all, let's talk about the squad. Let's go straight into the squad then. So the whole point of British Swimming Champs was essentially to earn selection to Japan, and we all know that the consideration qualification times were ridiculously tough. Now, we gave our opinions and thoughts about them in the preview podcast. If you haven't heard it already, go have a listen there. We're not going to repeat ourselves. But halfway through the meet, a change in policy did happen, which would allow the coaches more discretionary picks. So essentially, the whole point of this, I think after 3 days, they kind of saw that a few of the relays, more relays than anything else, were missing consideration times. Yep. And what British Swimming really need to do and have to do is go to Japan with the relay teams and qualify them for Paris. Because the only other opportunity after that is Doha next February in 2024 before the Olympics, which would completely mess up everyone's training cycles, and essentially no one wants to go to that World Championships.
Well, it ends up being potentially you taper 3 times. You'd have to taper for Doha because you have to qualify there. Then you'd have to taper again for trials, Olympic trials, which would be champs next year. And then, of course, if you then make it to the Olympics, of course, you're going to taper for that as well. So there's 3 times you have to taper it in quite quick succession. So there's no time to do any sort of training block. So you kind of really have to avoid Doha as best as you can, really, in this sort of situation, which is... Yeah, I mean, I understand why we've taken so many, because the relays are important, and hopefully we do get all of our teams qualification times for Paris, and I think we will do that. But yeah, we can't really go to Doha because it messes up a lot of training cycles, like you said.
Yeah, I think we discussed this off the air before we started recording. I think if any relay teams miss qualification in Japan, they won't bother in Doha. I think it's ridiculous because you could necessarily, like this is some hypothetical example, you could send a team to Doha to qualify. Say, God forbid, they get DQ'd in the men's medley relay, which God, this is sounding less hypothetical and more scary. Suddenly you need to send a team which is quite strong to hit the qualification times. So you could end up having to send Ollie Morgan on backstroke, James Wilby on breaststroke, James Guy on fly, and Lewis Burris on freestyle. Now, that team most probably could qualify. That's not the issue I have with going to Doha. It's the fact that those 4 guys, if they had to go, would inherently have a massive disadvantage come April trials because they've messed up their training block to get other people to qualify. And could you imagine, like, James Guy suddenly, he's qualified in Doha for the team, and he comes 3rd at trials to Jamie Ingram and Jacob Peters. Perfectly plausible situation if he's just had February racing in Doha. So it's literally a situation they are wanting to avoid at all cost, which is why this change in policy came in, and a lot of people were a bit confused by it. I fully understand it. Once you dig into it, I fully understand it, and it had to come in.
Well, let's hope your theoretical sort of theory just then does not come true, because I think it would cause uproar. I honestly would, between the swimmers, between the parents, between coaches. It would not go down very well. Let's just say Jimmy misses the team completely for Paris. That would go down like a lead balloon. It really would. Yeah. So I think we'd just almost ignore Doha completely. If you, like you say, if you don't make it in at World Championships, then just don't bother doing it at all. You might as well target trials and hopefully get to the Olympics.
Shall we move on to something a bit happier then? So
yes, let's go positive. Yes.
Let's go those 29 swimmers in the squad, of which 10 are making international debuts, who have been picked by British Swimming. Now, there were, I think, 15 swimmers who hit consideration or qualification times. 14 of those were in individual events, and then James Guy hit it on the 200 relay. Of course he did. He's the relay master. So let's go through first the 5 swimmers who qualified because they hit qualification times and because they were winners of their events. So the first one, Freya Colbert, she had an absolute standout meet in Sheffield.
She did. I mean, she won 3 golds in the end. She started off with the 400 IM, which arguably was one of the races of the entire week.
100%.
Against Katie Shanahan. It was such a good race to start off. She then followed up with the 800 free, and then she won the 400 free later on in the week. I said in my earlier predictions on the preview that she'd be the star swimmer, and I feel like she's there or thereabouts, don't you think? So she had a fantastic meet. I think I asked her what her standout race was, and I think it was, she said the 400 IM, and I completely agree with her. That was amazing.
You've forgotten to mention her 200 back, winning silver in that, which a 208 came out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, it's a testament to the work that her and Dave Hemmings are doing, the fact that they've targeted this backstroke leg as the leg which in her 4am is... She didn't necessarily say to me it was the weakest. She said it's like where she loses the most energy and she can't then capitalize on her freestyle. So they've really been training it this year. And the fact that she pushed Katie Shanahan all the way in the 200 meters backstroke, I mean, it caught me by surprise. And I think she really hopes to race it internationally, because bar the top 3 swimmers, that event is pretty poor. It's quite easy to make an international final. Like a 208 that she swam in Sheffield, for me, would make an international final.
I think that does make a final, and it really does surprise me. If we talk about the 200 backstroke for a little bit, she was keeping up with Katie swim speed-wise. It was only because of Katie's underwaters that I feel like Katie won that race in the end. So her backstroke is super impressive. Whatever her and Dave are doing is paying dividends right now, because that was absolutely phenomenal. Because in that 400 IM, because Katie took it out quite hard, I thought, this race is over, because obviously you're leading into Katie's backstroke. And actually, Freya held her own, if not maybe caught her up a little bit. So that was a fantastic race, like I've already said. But Freya was amazing all week.
Now, another swimmer who qualified and, to me, arguably had one of the swims of the week, if not the swim, Dan Jervis. The 1,500 meters freestyle to go within, what was it, 0.4 of his PB, around about that mark? 4/10 of his PB in April is encouraging. And he's been saying for a very long time, he wants that David Davis British record. I think it's going this summer, as long as him and Adam Baker and Stuart keep up the amazing work.
Yeah, I mean, I was speaking to Adam on poolside, and he was very much like, I'm expecting something good from Dan, but not that good. I mean, 4 attempts off his PB, and then, I don't know, was it within a second of the British record, something along those lines?
Yeah. His PB's
fantastic
close.
swim. Yeah, it's amazing. For me, that goes down as one of the best races. I think it was my personal best race of the whole meet. Probably the 200 free, obviously, but that's an easy way out. But that 1500, and then he followed up with the 800 as well, which I thought was a harder time to hit. And he just blew the doors off both races. Absolutely amazing. I did question why he didn't do the 400 when I asked Adam Pager, and he said he wanted to concentrate on the 2 distance events, which I think was probably the right call in hindsight.
Oh, rightly so. Yeah, I think all of the hype in the winter months, the short course season, was Daniel Whiffin, and rightly so. He set European records, but in the long course scene, I think Dan Jervis is still very much the class of UK swimming, because Dan Whiffin's Ireland. But he really did show his class this week in Sheffield, and it was great to see the whole crowd get behind a 15 and an 800, because like distance swimming is now in the best place it's ever been.
I honestly think they're the most exciting races in swimming at the moment. When
Go back, listen to our
oh man,
go back, listen to our podcast 3 years ago. We weren't saying that. We are now. We understand them better.
Yeah. It's amazing that the crowd gets involved, and of course, then one of the top swimmers again, if you go outside of Dan Jones, was Matt Richards. The crowd was absolutely insane for that last 200 free at the very end of the meet.
Qualification time winner.
And Matt Richards absolutely blew. He broke history, didn't he? He's the first swimmer ever to go sub 22 for a 50, sub 48 for a 100, and then sub 145 for a 200. No swimmer in history has done that. Not even Phelps, not Van Hoogerman, no one. So he was on fire. He really was. Welsh records all over the place. He just blew the doors off. Fastest times in the world in both the 100 and 200.
when he swam them. The 100 has since been passed by Popovich. I know after that 100 he was disappointed. It was the first time he'd ever gone into any sort of final as firm favourite, and I think we were saying on poolside, British record might be in a serious threat here. And it just didn't go right for him in the final, but come the 200 he really did put that right, and it's a credit to the work that's going on up in Millfield, and I think the fact that his coach Ryan Livingston is part of the coach's team that's going to be going to World Championships is, again, a testament not just to the work that he's doing with Matt, but Emily Large, and we'll get on to that later. But Matt, fully one of the standout swimmers, and freestyle in this country is doing something special when Duncan Scott is finishing 4th in a 200 metres freestyle.
And Joe Litchfield's finishing 6th in a 146.
What
nuts. On earth is happening? God, you feel bad for him. He's made the team, which is great, but to go 146, a bit like Cam Cole for the Olympics. He went 146 and then didn't go to the Olympics. Oh man, that is tough going. We've spoken about Katie Shanahan already in her 400 IM and her 200 backstroke. Her 200 IM, potentially, maybe even more surprising, because for me, I wasn't expecting her to win that. I thought Abbie was going to not walk away with it, but win relatively comfortably by a second or so. But Katie on the freestyle leg, I don't know where that came from. That was an awesome swim.
I think that swim took us a good 12 hours when we were in Sheffield to kind of realise how special that was between the two of them. So both of them go 209, and in IM world, the world record is 206, and 209 doesn't sound that good. But when you think that Abbie went a 209.1 at the Olympics and came 4th, both of these girls are incredibly close, 16 months out from the Olympics, to getting faster than Abbie went, and she came 4th. So yes, the world of IM swimming is very fast right now with Summer McIntosh, but to have these two Brits fighting each other at championships like this should only drive them on to better things, and I think we've said it about every race so far that we've spoken about, but one of the races of the week.
I think every race we're going to talk about, I think, is the race of the week. But honestly, that 200 IM was incredible, and it's great. It's kind of the same with Freya and Katie as well. The fact that they've got a domestic rivalry, and that time in the 200 IM, those 209s, they're Olympic finals. I'm quite sure of that. So the fact that they should, hopefully, all going well, touch wood, they do those same times again or better, they're going to be in an Olympic final next time, at this time sort of next year. So it's very exciting times.
And the final swimmer who hit an automatic qualification time and was a winner of their event was Laura Stevens in the 200 metres butterfly. Now, I think Laura Stevens is just touching the surface of what is possible in the 200 metres butterfly. She hit what was it, a 206? Am I right in thinking?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
206.
Yeah,
I think she
high,
can
yeah.
keep going lower. We've seen the progress that the Dave Hemming squad has done over the last 12 months. She's certainly one of those amazing female athletes coming through, and again, she's at the quality now of Olympic finals for two fly, which is really encouraging.
Do you remember the year, it was Olympic year, where she was almost struggling to get to that Olympic level, to hit that time, and she hit it right at the last chance at Glasgow to then be
yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, suddenly that's all in the past, and now she's hitting qualification times, not easily, but she's quite comfortably underneath it. And I just wonder, that period of her career has actually helped her confidence and belief to the fact that, I can do it now. There's no problem, because she went under it twice. She did it in the heats. Also did it in the final as well. I agree with you. I think there's more to come from her, which is also very exciting. And then, of course, you've got Emily Large, who came in second and also went under the time as well. So,
consideration.
The women's fly looks quite good right now, I must say.
So the other swimmers at British Champs who hit a qualification time but didn't necessarily win their event or a consideration time were Freya Anderson, Lewis Burris, Tom Dean, James Guy, Anna Hopkin, Emily Large, Jacob Peters, Ben Proud, Duncan Scott and Abbie Wood. And all of those 10 are on the way to Japan. So any of those, Dan, who stood out for you, well, I say any of those, we could talk through them all. Any who stood out for you in Sheffield?
We got to briefly go through all of them, because it's really hard to just leave off one or two, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's start with your first name, Freya Anderson, the 200-meter freestyle. She's gone a PB for the first time in I can't remember how many years now. Was it 3?
3 or 4, something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember now, but she even said. But sub 156 for the first time. And I said to you at the time, I think this might be the moment, a little bit like the Laura Stevens situation that I said to you just a minute ago. This might be the time for her to get this confidence and then push on. It really wouldn't surprise me if she goes a low 155 at Worlds. Now that she's got past that barrier, that mental obstacle is gone, and she'll just now move on and go on to leaps and bounds, the next stepping stone. That was a fantastic race from her. And
she did the double by winning the 100 ahead of Anna, which I didn't overly see coming kind of going into the meet. But the form that Freya's in, we spoke to her afterwards. She said she had a tough 2022. Her confidence was fairly low after trials in the summer, but it is bounding back now. It really is bounding back. And it's come just at the right time, because 200 free in the international scene is moving on, and she's got to go with it. And I think she is just about going with it now. I think it's encouraging. Lewis Burris in the 100 free, he somehow finds a way to win and retain his title yet again. Takes down Matt Richards and Duncan Scott. I think the podium was split by 0.03 of a second. We were almost out of £100 merchandise vouchers to Hubert down in Mount Kelly, because on the live stream he predicted that the 100 free would be a dead heat between Lewis Burris and Matt Richards, and he was close. He was really close.
He nearly won big time there.
He did.
I love watching Lewis so much. I really love his tactic. I love the fact that he just absolutely bombs it. What did he go out?
He went out in a 22.6.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah, crazy. But
I can tell you now.
I love the drama of it.
I can tell you now, speaking around poolside, that spooked a few of them in that final, which is why he won.
Yes, yeah, probably, yeah. I know he suffers towards the end because he went out so fast at the start, but it then puts pressure on the other guys to force themselves to catch him up, you see. I really like it, and it's obviously worked for him. He's now backed up his British title from last year, so it's going to be great that he's on the plane to Japan as well.
Yeah, Tom Dean wins the 200 IM, just sneaking ahead of Duncan Scott, Duncan Scott, by the way, had an incredibly unlucky week. Just getting touched out in several events, like we just spoke about the 100, 200 to Tom. Yeah. Tom was unlucky in the 200 to Matt. I mean, it's just the class of some of these boys. This is international level racing, and yeah, Tom Dean's right at the top of the pile in, 200 IM now. I didn't see that one coming in. I know, Tom's good, but I didn't realise his breaststroke was that much better than Duncan's, or especially at this meet, it was that much better.
Yeah, I think Duncan wasn't on absolutely Olympic form, was he? He wasn't at his very best, which it's still good enough to be on the plane to Japan. He's going for the 100, 200 and 200 IM, 100 and 200 free and 200 IM.
Well, relay is likely for the 200.
And the relay, of course, yeah. And I remember saying to you, actually, that we should be watching out for Tom's 200 IM.
About a year ago.
Yeah, I did, yeah. And even though he is training primarily for the 200 free, as he should do, being Olympic champion. His 200 IM is getting better and better, and he's obviously number one in the country right now. His breaststroke was very good. Very good.
2 156 guys. I mean, again, like, yes, they were hard qualification and consideration times, but these guys that have hit them, we're now heading into Worlds and be like, well, that's a final. And then anything can happen. With the times that they've hit in April, that's a final. Quite like,
if I remember right, at the time they were top 5 in the world. Those two swims.
Yeah.
That has to be an Olympic final at this point in time, anyway. So yeah.
James Guy goes his fastest times in like 4 or 5 years, and like 200 free, he's on the relay, 100 fly. He might get to swim the individual, but again, he said it's the fastest he's been in April in God knows how long.
For this 200, yes. For this 100 fly, he has always, he actually told me that he's never been faster than 51.5 in April, and he went 51.6. So he is right where he should be, you know? But the 200 was amazing.
I wonder how he feels heading into a meet where he's never gone faster than a 51.5, and he sees this consideration time of whatever ridiculous time it was.
I think that was one of the races.
Oh, well, what's the point?
I think James Guy actually had secretly a pretty good meet. He did finish third in the 200 meter freestyle, and the 100 fly, we've just said that he's at pretty much on song. But the winner of the 100 fly, since we've got to talk about him as well, Jacob Peters, that kind of came out of nowhere. I said to you in my predictions that he would be challenging Jimmy. I didn't think he would beat Jimmy. And he kind of beat him by quite a bit, a good half second. He blew the doors off.
Like, we're going to speak about our swimmers at the meet, and he's probably not going to get a mention, but he should, if that makes sense, because his swims are out of this world. The 50 fly, he PB'd by 0.4. 0.4. That's nuts. That's like an age group PB, not like an Olympian PB.
That's absolutely insane. To go to fastest time in the world as well.
Yeah.
What was it, 22.7, I think it was.
22.89.
Oh, 8.9, yeah. Just awesome. I don't know where that came from. Obviously, he's doing fantastic work in Bath. He says he looks up to Jimmy as a mentor and someone to train with, and it's obviously paying dividends right now. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder if he's going to do the 50 fly in Worlds. Do you reckon British Swimming will let him do that?
Oh, I think they'll rest him for relays and say no.
Quite possibly.
will be my blunt answer.
Relays is the main thing, isn't it? So they're probably going to be targeting that.
We literally just spoke about the relays for a long time.
Now
you've mentioned 2 of your predictions. One of my predictions was that Anna Hopkin would take her sprinting to the next level. Now, the 50 looked very, very good. The 100, she kind of paid for taking it out quite so hard. Maybe the 50 gave her a little bit too much confidence in her easy speed. I'm not quite sure my prediction came in as next level, but Anna's where Anna needs to be.
Well, she got the time and she's on the plane. I mean, it's job done, basically. It's a box ticked. I honestly think, well, you take a look at Mel's squad, and especially looking back at Tokyo, she does get them very prepared for the Olympic year. Obviously, you look at Adam, you look at Luke, and I think Anna this is a phase for her, only for her to absolutely do, let's say, your prediction of blowing the doors off. I think she'll do that in Tokyo. In Tokyo? I think she'll do that in Paris. Sorry, I'm rewinding time. I think she'll do that in Paris because she a bit like Jacob Whittle. I think they're in the gym at the moment. They look like they're getting a little bit bulkier, and hopefully by the time next year happens, they're going to transition that strength from the gym into the pool, and then we're going to see some fireworks. So I'm looking forward to what she does next year.
Another swim that you mentioned it after Laura Stevens, Emily Large's 200 fly to hit the consideration time. It's gone under the radar how good a swim that was for her because that was her first PB in 6 years. And we're hopefully going to have her on the podcast in the next few weeks to discuss it all. But I cannot imagine, like, 200 fly is tough enough. Like, that's a tough event to stick at for 6 years and not hit a PB at. Would you not just be like, oh, stuff this, I'm changing event? 200 fly to do that, and then to go a 207 at British Champs and get on the plane to Japan. I mean, props to her. That's crazy.
That's probably going to be our very first question when we get on the podcast. What did you do during those 6 years? How did you mentally get over the fact that you hadn't PB'd? You're on this 6-year plateau. What kept you in the sport and all that sort of stuff? That will be pretty much our first question, because
especially a 2 fly.
Yeah, mate, I don't know. We'll just have to ask her. We'll have to get. I don't know. We're guessing. So yes, stay tuned for that. But obviously the move to Millfield, along with Matt as well, has paid it's done them wonders, both of those two.
100%. Ben Proud, 53. He gets on the team with a consideration time. The qualification for this one, by the way, was ridiculous to ask a sprinter to in April. He is very much targeting this summer, next summer. He came into this pretty underprepared. So the fact that he's underprepared, unshaven, might be unrested. We're not sure on that one. To go 21.7 is... Yeah, the man's world champion, Commonwealth champion, and European champion for a reason.
Yeah, the fact that he was unshaven, and he said that he prepared slightly differently. You can read into that as much as you want. I don't know actually what that means. But to go 21.7 after his heat swim, which I was a little bit nervous about because it wasn't the best heat swim ever. He even said he was a little bit rusty, but then he knocked off a good half second from his heat swim, which is massive. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. I don't know if he does the 50 fly as well, because that wasn't as good as the 50 free. It wouldn't surprise me if they stick him and Jacob on the 50 fly, but I'm not sure. He'll definitely do the 50 free, obviously. But we'll see.
I think we'll just see Ben do the 53 this summer and just save it till Paris. It's the one medal missing from his arsenal or like his collection. I think that's fully the aim now, and just wait till then. The last two names then that get onto the plane courtesy of consideration and qualification times, Duncan Scott and Abbie Wood. I've already mentioned Duncan was probably one of the unluckiest swimmers. Kind of his 100 free where he hit the consideration time went under the radar completely. He's now going to be racing that at an international level, I would have thought, given that he didn't make the individual in the 2 free, which is kind of exciting. We've never really seen Duncan swim that internationally.
Not as an individual, no. You see
or do you rest him for the relays? I'd love to see him swim the individual.
So would I. I want to see Duncan race everything because I think he's quality at everything. But if the relays is the main target, which we believe it is, I think actually we know it is, he will be rested for that.
It'd be a shame.
Even though, I mean, if you look at it, the men's 4x1 and the men's 4x2 have already got their qualification times. That's just trying to win gold in both those races. Really.
No, they still need to hit the Olympic consideration time in Japan. They still have to do it there.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. I mean, we're under it by like seconds, aren't we? You've got loads of legway. I'd love to see Duncan do the 100 free. The fact that he came back at Lewis on that final 50 in the 100, I actually thought he'd won it. He was literally clawing back. He was surfing a wave. We've seen it do him before at I think it was the World Champs, wasn't it? One year where he went a 46-1, I thought, or some ridiculous split, and he was surfing the Americans' wave, and he's so good at doing that, which is why I think he's very unfortunate to be placed in lane 1 for the 200-meter free final.
It was a shame.
I think that was the problem. Yeah. I think he's very much an out-and-out racer, isn't he? So
if he was in the middle, even if it was like 2 lanes away from Tom, or he was next to Jimmy, I feel like he would have been better placed. But unfortunately, the way the heat swim went, he still swam a 1:48 in the heats, and then was in lane 1. It's just the quality of standard. It made a sub 49 to make the final. Yeah, you're right. It was a massive shame to see him out in lane 1, but. I mean, Steve Tigg's not a fan of the 200 free being right at the end of the British Swim Champs. I know a lot of the swimmers. It's a spectacle for us as like enjoyment, keeps everyone on, but you're dead. At the end of a meet like that, you've swam a lot and suddenly you've got the biggest race in British swimming right at the end of your schedule. It's not fun for these swimmers.
I absolutely get it from an entertainment point of view and keeping spectators on poolside and building up for the whole week up until that race. I get it, I do, but the swimmers absolutely hate it. And the fact that they're able to go 144s or 145s at the end of a really tough week, I mean, geez, hats off to these guys. Should we go on to the last name, Abbie Wood, the 200 IM? We spoke about it a little bit with Katie Shanahan. Her turns are awesome. I mean, they have to be one of the best in the world right now. She was taking chunks out of Katie. Just unfortunate on the swim speed, just to be out-touched by, I think it was 6/100s or something like that. They finished at the same time. She hit the qualification time, which I thought was relatively one of the easier ones. I don't know if I should say that or not.
Careful.
But 2:10s, I think it was I think it was easy because I knew Abbie was going to hit it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. So she's another job done for her. A little bit with Anna Hopkins. Job done. Box ticked. Move on to the summer.
Yeah, she. I think it was the first time she's gone 2:09 since the Olympics, which is that's a big mental hurdle to get over. The way her and Katie Shanahan celebrated at the end of that race, it was like they both won gold, but essentially, like it wasn't the gold medal that was important. It was the fact that they both pushed each other to a qualification time, and they knew, like, Abbie Wood's on holiday now. They knew straight away from Sunday, I'm on that team. There's no way I'm not getting picked, which is a brilliant place to be in. Now, the other swimmers that we're going to mention, of which there are 14, didn't know that they were going to be picked heading out of champs, because they are the coach's discretionary picks. So let's go through them, and we'll kind of give our thoughts on one or two, maybe a few more. So Cameron Booker, Greg Butler, Lauren Cox, Cara Hanlon, Meddy Harris, Lucy Hope, Joe Litchfield, Kiana McInnes, Jack McMillan, subject to his nationality ratification, which, if you haven't listened to our podcast with Jack, have a listen. It's a very interesting situation that he's in, that he formerly swam for Northern Ireland, chose British swimming, just a little plug. Ollie Morgan, Luke Turley, Jacob Whittle, James Wilby, and Brodie Williams. Dan, I'm going to kick things off here. What stands out for me? Now, straight away on social media, on Swim Swam comment section, there were 3 names who got called lucky to make the team. Now, I'm going to go through them and kind of, I half agree that they're lucky, and then I justify it logically in my mind, and I see why they're on the team. So Cam Booker, Greg Butler, Lauren Cox. I think those were the 3 names which unfairly were getting called out. So first of all, Lauren Cox, the 100 back she is definitely going for. She didn't break a minute, but Meddy Harris is going to have a busy schedule when it comes to Japan. And like we said, relay is priority, to the point where, like, British Swimming even said, they, as part of their announcement, they want to rest key swimmers with busy schedules. Meddy Harris is going to swim the 4x1, the 4x2. So you need Lauren to go to rest her in the 100 back. Essentially, that's my reading of it. That's why Lauren's there, and I don't have a problem with that.
No, she will. I imagine she'll do the heats of the 100 backstroke. Maybe both girls will do the individual 100-meter backstroke, and then whoever is the fastest for that individual will then do the medley relay.
And I could also
like a wooden
see
spoon type thing.
I could also see Lauren doing the 50 back.
Yeah, I actually like the fact that Lauren is on the team. I think she should be given this chance to experience an international stage. I think she's good enough to. Yes, I know she hasn't broken 60 yet, but I think give it the summer and she probably will break a minute, which is then suddenly you're looking in the realms of where Meddy sort of kind of is. So they're pretty much hit the same time, didn't they, at champs?
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, especially when relays are the main focus, and so it gives Meddy a rest because she's going to be swimming a lot. She's going to do both relays. She's going to do her individuals as well. So I think that's justified. I think that's a good move from British Swimming.
And I think Cam Booker falls into the same category as Lauren Cox, because Ollie Morgan only beat him by, I think it was 400ths in the 100-meter backstroke. Both of them are going to be on their first international team. So you kind of want to give yourself a buffer just in case the occasion gets too much for either of them. I'm not saying it is going to get too much or like a taper goes wrong. That medley relay isn't as strong as it could be given that Adam's at home. So you need, for my opinion, you need 2 swimmers as a buffer, and Brodie Williams isn't that 100 backstroker. He came 5th in the final. I'm pretty sure he'll just do the 200 back out in Japan. Cameron Booker, he looked really good in the 50 as well, 50 and 100. Like, Ollie Morgan got the headlines, rightly so, but he went under the radar as a very solid week in Sheffield.
Well, I actually think he actually swam really, really well. I mean, he took it out really strongly in both the 50, obviously, as you do, and the 100 metres backstroke, and actually put Ollie under pressure for that 100 metres to try and catch him up, a bit like what Lewis Burris does in the 100 freestyle. I think Cam Booker falls into the same category as Lauren, like you were saying. I think it's just another backup it's just in case. We need to be qualifying for the relays, and so we need to take as many just in case and what if backups as much as possible, really. And again, it's a good experience for him to get out there and race for GB.
And the same applies to Greg Butler then in the 100 breaststroke. Maybe he gets the chance to swim an individual 200. I'm not sure. I think they're just being cautious on James Wilby if he swims the 100 and 200 individual as well as a relay. You just got to be careful that, I mean, in the individual, they weren't split by that much. It was really close, a bit like Cam Booker and Ollie Morgan. You're taking 2 who essentially could be around the same time, and whoever performs the best out there gets the chance to race. I think if Adam was racing, I don't think Greg would go, but Adam isn't racing this summer. You need 2 breaststrokers for the medley relay because it's really key that, we've said before, the relays hit the times.
if the door's open, you got to slam through it, I think, and hopefully Greg does that in Japan. That would be amazing, and I think he will do the heat swim, and then Wilby will do the final. I think that's probably set in stone a little bit, that, because Wilby is a big time swimmer. He will always pull out of the bag. That's how I think that's going to go. So yes, I don't think those three were. I don't think they were lucky. I think there's a reason behind it.
Yeah,
Let's put it that way.
No, I agree. Now, the rest of these swimmers who were coach's discretion, then, any of them who really kind of stood out for you, even if they didn't hit the fast qualification and consideration times?
There's an obvious one which I'll leave to you, but I'm going to start with Cara Hanlon. I think she swam incredibly well. Pretty much on PB or hitting like small PBs, both the 100 and the 200, even though she won the 50 as well, because Imogen Clark got DQ'd, which we are slightly unlucky about on the fantasy podcast thing. If you took part,
we're not bitter.
But yeah, I think Cara swam really well. Just off her Scottish record in the 100. I actually think she will get close to the British record very soon. She's only about half a second off.
I kept saying on poolside she'll get it in Sheffield, but close.
Well, yeah. Your predictions didn't go too well for this week. But anyway, the 200 also impressed me. I think, even though she didn't win it, I think the way she swims it, both the 100 and the 200, she does the whole building tactic, and it's working quite well for her right now. And I think she's one to watch out for in Japan, because I think she'll PB, she'll get a new Scottish record, and I think she's going to run close to the British record as well.
Joe Litchfield and Jack McMillan for me in both the 100 and the 200 freestyle. We know just how important it is to give the top guys a rest when it comes to the final. The fact that these guys are still going 146 and below for the 200 free, and both of them are very capable 100 meters freestyle as well. It's really, really key and encouraging to taking down the Americans in this event, or the Italians in the 4x1, whichever is faster, or the Aussies. There's quite a lot, but the fact that those two are picked, I think, is entirely justified. And actually, had those top boys not been there, we'd all be saying, "Wow, look at the week those two had." The fact that they came 5th and 6th in both the 100 and the 200 has gone under the radar completely. But I mean, they're very, very fast swimmers.
I know it does bode well when Paris comes round. The fact that we almost have another relay. We could put 4 heat swimmers out, and we'd probably still make a final. And then we put the 4 top guys in. It's not too far away from that, honestly.
This summer they could very easily rest 3 of them and even race Luke Turley in the heats of the 4x2, as he's a discretionary picked. I'd kind of love to see that.
Yeah, I think those guys are quick enough to make a final. And then obviously you bring the guys in after to then hopefully break a world record in that 4x2. That'd be quite nice.
Touch wood.
Another name we should probably mention is Kenna McInnes. She had a fantastic meet both in the 100 and the 200. She won the 100, the Scottish record, first time under 58. But that consideration time, or the qualification time, both times to be fair, that was ridiculous in that race.
56, wasn't it?
56 low or something like that. She won it in a 57.8 or 9, I think it was. I think it was 9.
Yeah.
So she's a good second off that qualification time, and she's British champion. That just shows how hard that time was.
But
so I think a lot of credit goes to her.
She had to get picked, essentially, for the women's medley relay.
Yeah. I mean, I know Laura had already been picked for 200, and she probably is good enough to do the 100, as she was in Tokyo. But you got to give Kenna the nod, because she is British champion in that event.
100%. And I think the last person I really want to give a deep mention to of these considerations, Ollie Morgan. To be the first guy since Marco Loughran in 2007 to do the triple header in the backstroke. I think, yes, I probably had him to win the 50. In the preview podcast, I said a young gun would win the 100. I said Johnny Marshall. He had a virus.
It was ill, yeah.
Ollie Morgan definitely could have been predicted to win that one ahead of time. The 200, I didn't see that. That came out from absolutely nowhere. So to win 3 golds and that last one to be against 2 international medalists, nuts. What a week.
Well, we're going to get him on a podcast ASAP. That is an absolute must, because we want to kind of quiz him about how on earth did you do the swims that you just did. Like you say, I could probably see him winning the 50, the 100, probably a little bit as well. I didn't think he would be first in that event. I had someone else. I think I had Brody or Luke or maybe someone like that. Cam Brooker was in there, of course. But the 200, was that his best race? Honestly, he went. What did he go? He went 158 high in the heat, which by itself was over a second PB. I was like, right, he's maxed out. I don't think he's going to go any faster than that. And then he goes a 157 low in the final to knock off another second and a half.
And the final 50 of that race, he was over a second down from Brody, and Brody has world-class underwaters. So
I know.
We're going to get a video up of the race ASAP, but he was charging the last 50, absolutely flying.
If I remember, his split was 29.6 at the end of a 200 backstroke, which is quick. That's quick.
Yeah.
So yes, we're going to get him on the podcast to talk about those 3 races, because he blew the doors off. It's such a shame that he didn't hit a consideration time, I suppose.
I think that's the only
icing on the top of the cake.
This is the only thing which is kind of holding. It's not even holding him back, actually. Like, he's held in such high regard now. Yeah, exactly. He's on the plane. Yeah. He's going to be leading off the medley relay, I would presume. And we've had his coach Gary on the podcast for a very good reason. We knew things were happening in the University of Birmingham. So go listen to that podcast if you haven't already. Yep. So that's the swimmers, Dan. The coaches that are going, they're taking 6. I think 5 of them, not a surprise whatsoever. Jamie Main, David Hemmings, Mel Marshall, Dave McNulty, Steve Tigg, and then we've mentioned Ryan Livingstone at Millfield. The work he's doing with Matt and Emily Large, he doesn't want the attention, he doesn't want the credit, but he's going to get some credit from us. You're doing a wonderful job.
He deserves it.
Can't wait to see what these guys, and there's a few more names coming through at Millfield, like your Alex Painters in the sprinting world, which is exciting times ahead there. So that's kind of the World Champs team. The coach is done. Is there anyone we think who are slightly unlucky not to be going as part of the 29? I have 2.
Oh, do you? Please share. Go on.
So I'd go Imogen Clark is unlucky. Her 100 probably wasn't where she wanted it to be, but the 50, she got DQ'd, yes. But I'd love for British women to take the 50s seriously at a world level, because she could bring home a medal. Like, yes, 50 breaststroke is fast internationally. Pilato, Van Niekerk. She could necessarily make a final, make a medal, but she could back up on the relay as well for the 100 breaststroke for Cara Hanlon. I think she's slightly unlucky when we say, like, Lauren Cox has gone as backup for Medi in the 100 back. I could have seen her getting picked.
Yeah, I don't know why British swimming don't like the 50s, apart from the 53.
Well, they're not Olympic.
It's an Olympic event. But
that's the simple answer.
The thing is with 50s is that, yes, I think she's good enough to make a final, and when it comes to a final, anything can happen. I don't think she wins, but I think she might get the podium potentially. And if you're able to put a swimmer into a guaranteed final, which I think she is a guaranteed finalist, and she's got a chance at a podium, I would do that. I would take her. So I agree with you on that. And again, if you want to rest Cara for the 100, maybe put her into a heat swim, then do that. Especially if relays are the main target, and we haven't got any of our girl relay teams have hit the consideration times just yet. It might be that would have been worth putting Imogen on the team. So I'm not quite sure what the thinking was, but I think that they look at her as just a 50-meter swimmer. I think that's probably the issue there.
Yeah, and the other swimmer I've got is unlucky, not so much because he should have been selected, but unlucky because of illness. He had an illness going into champs, and that's Luke Greenbank. We know he can perform better than the swims that came out. I think it's just a terrible time to get an illness, and that's kind of the brutal nature of sport. He misses the team this summer, but I expect him to be back firing on all cylinders, hopefully for Paris next year.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because if you don't hit the times, it should be cutthroat. If you don't hit the times, you don't go. Yeah, exactly. So if you don't go quick enough, you don't make the team. And so if he didn't make the times and he didn't win, I know he made podiums at British Champs. It's quite difficult to then justify, right, Luke, you're on the team. It's a harsh thing to say, but it's just, unfortunately, it's the reality of sport, I suppose. So it is a shame, but he's just very unfortunate with the timing of his illness, a bit like with Johnny Marshall, really.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we get into the final positive moments of this meet, so swimmers of the meet, top 3 races, juniors who stood out, there's something that's come to my attention, and I think we should talk about it. British swimming, all of these people who are going, all of these races, bar maybe 1 or 2, a lot of them are in relay kind of races. Now, would you say, based on this British Champs, the British swimming is slightly falling behind in the world of swimming in the non-relay races, because conceivably some of the weaker events at the meet were the men's 400 IM, the men's 200 fly. The times weren't anywhere near. There's no one on this plane for those events. It's kind of a shame, but I think British swimming very much is prioritizing the relays. We've said it all podcast. Is that a good thing? Is it actually harming other events?
It depends how you look at it, because if you look on the women's side, those type of events we're actually doing quite well in. You've got Laura for the 200 fly. The 400 IM is looking very good. The 400 free with Freya it's good, but not quite sort of world class at the moment. But I think she's going to get there. But it's just on the men's side, and I wonder if it's because the success we're having on the relays on the men's side, those swimmers, the swimmers coming through, want to be part of that relay team, so they're targeting those sprint events more so than your 2 flies, 400 IMs. Maybe that's part of it.
Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I think I'll let everyone discuss in the YouTube comment section. Personally, I'm a bit worried about it. I think it's just got my attention heading into Paris that, like, even Duncan has dropped the 4 IM because he knows he needs to make the 2 free. Yeah, it's brilliant that our 4x2 is so strong, but there's other events that are kind of slipping back, and we know we had a dry spell, or we're going through a dry spell in women's distance because there's no one coming through. I worry that the same thing might happen to these non-relay events. I think it's something to pay attention to over the next few years.
I suppose each country has they go through phases, don't they, where they excel in one stroke or multiple strokes, and then they don't in others. And we had our problems with the distance female swimmers before for Tokyo. After Jazz, for example, after Jazz, and I think maybe we're going to have an influx of younger swimmers coming through on the women's side potentially in the future. It's just on the men's side where, after Dan Jervis, I think we're kind of struggling. We have Toby Robinson, for example. We have
Luke Turley was good in the 800.
Luke Turley is getting there, yeah, he is, but I wouldn't put him in the 1500 category. He's definitely 800 and 400, so your middle distance slightly higher. But after that, there's not really anyone. But
I just have a tiny concern that swimmers coming through, like you said, are seeing these relays and being like, that's my best chance for a medal. I'm going to target a 4th place at Champs over a 1st place in the 4 AM.
Especially on the men's side.
That's just my worry. And I hope, definitely the men's side, I hope it doesn't happen on the women's side. Like, we're targeting relays right now, and some of them could conceivably be strong. But I hope we stay strong in the 4 AM, those events as well.
Yeah.
So, Dan, positive then. What's your swimmer? Who is your swimmer of the meet?
I think I said it on an Instagram story when we were on our long drive back from Sheffield. And I have to say it's Freya Colbert. Not because she won her 3 golds, so that's part of it, obviously. But I just think she was impressive in everything she did. Massive PBs. I think that she did a PB of at least 2 seconds, I think, on the 400 free, PB on the 400 IM, PB on the 800 free. Her backstroke is looking incredible at the moment. So I'd give it to Freya, and I think there's more to come from her as well. She is just going leaps and bounds right now. What about you?
For entertainment-wise and the fact that he did the triple, I wanted to give it to Ollie Morgan. I really did. But performance-wise, the first guy ever to go sub-22, sub-48, sub-145 in freestyle has got to be Matt Richards. Like, he'll be disappointed that he's come away with 1 gold and 2 bronze, but I think the times are the important thing, because the depth in those events are nuts. And to go from the 50 to the 200 in those world-class level swims shouldn't be understated. My swimmer of the meet, Matt Richards.
Yeah, I mean, I was so close to getting a prediction right because I said he was going to win the 100-meter freestyle, which I looked really good for.
His dad let you know about that as well.
Yes. I know he did. Like, you picked the wrong event. I was like, oh, yeah, all right. But he had a fantastic race. Welsh records all over the place. World's fastest times in the 100 and 200 at the time. So he's looking really good. And I said to you that I'd love to see him go a 44 high, didn't you, in the 200 free? Not thinking that you would do it. I thought he'd go 145 mid, something like that. Yeah,
It was literally sat on the media balcony, wasn't it? Just like, I'd love to see him do that.
Love to see him do that. And then he did it. And we're like, oh, yes. So, I agree. Yeah, he was awesome. If there were a male swimmer and a female swimmer, I'd probably go Freya and Matt then, with Ollie Morgan just off, I suppose.
Close. Yeah, I think if Ollie Morgan had hit even just one consideration time, he might be ahead of Matt. But the Matt swims were unreal.
Yeah, they were good.
Now, let's end this podcast then by giving a few juniors a shout out, because there were many European juniors consideration or European junior selection times hit, whatever they're called. There were age group records set. Now, before we get into like naming names, like we said in our preview podcast, these are juniors. I feel slightly uncomfortable kind of giving a deep dive of a 14-year-old swim and giving them too much attention and too much pressure. But we do like to give them a shout out and props for some
successes.
Success, exactly. So Amelie Boxage winning the 1500 meters British title at the age of just 14 is just out of this world. Incredible. Yeah. I can't wait to see what's over the next few years, but just enjoy it. It's all enjoyment. And she does, to be fair to her, when you see her on poolside and you see her race, you can see she's enjoying it. She's loving life.
Yeah, you can see some of the celebrations. It's all thumbs up and smiling and looking at parents still.
It's great
but that's what you did when you were 14. It's all about enjoyment, which she still has to do. She doesn't need to be pushed into anything just yet. Yes, there's obviously amazing potential, but she's just got to enjoy it for the next 2 years, because we've got to try and keep her in a sport, I suppose. So yeah, just enjoy it. That's all that's needed right now.
Age group records hit by Eva Caro, Blythe Kingsman, I believe, as well. Matthew Ward was a standout swimmer in the 2-back. He made the men's final and got 2 minutes.
He did.
I think it was 2 minutes flat, wasn't it, or something like that. It was very close to breaking 2, which is incredibly good. Ruben, Roboth, and Keating seem to be everywhere on poolside in every event. He's a tall boy. You can't miss him.
Can't miss him. Yeah.
Leah
Slosh was very good.
Yeah.
2-fly was really good. 2 minute flat for that. That was a good European junior time hit there. Yeah, I like that one.
And then other kind of names. Sienna Robinson, you gave her a shout out in the build-up podcast. She swam very well in the breaststroke events, as did Leah Schlossen in the breaststroke and the 2IM, a 2:11. There's a big future ahead for her.
No, it's very exciting, especially when you've got Abbie and you've got Katie in the 200 IM to sort of target, if you like, domestically. And then hopefully she's going to be in future international meets as well. Because that 2:11 kind of gone under the radar because the two girls were fighting out at the top.
2:09.
That's a really good swim. Really good swim. Then she also went to 68 for the 100 breaststroke as well. So she's got a very bright future as well. Very bright future.
Absolutely. So hopefully all of those swimmers who wanted to hit European junior selection times have made it. Maybe even a few of them go to the LEN under 23 Cup competition, whatever it's called, over in Dublin later on this summer. And junior swimming in this country is doing really well. So there are a lot of swimmers coming through, and it's really exciting to see. And hopefully a few of these become household names in a few years' time. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, I said it earlier on that the women's butterfly is looking very good. I mean, I've lost count of how many girls, juniors or seniors, that now can go 60 points or lower. I mean, it's in a very good place right now. I mean, we're going to go through an influx of amazing 100-meter fly swimmers very, very soon. So watch out for that. I think it's really good to mention some junior names to celebrate the successes that, like we said earlier on, and it's an exciting future for British swimming.
Absolutely. So that just about rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swim Podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it and enjoyed British Champs as much as we did. We're going to be back over the next few weeks speaking to a few of those names who have made their World Championship selection team, hopefully including the likes of Ollie Morgan, Emily Large, just to name a few. Little industry tease there for those who want to subscribe if you haven't already. But until then, me and Dan will see you in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.